Hey folks, in today's episode of SysAdmin Weekly, we're touching on a very important soft skill for sysadmins. Now, we unfortunately live in a time where layoffs in the tech industry are occurring more frequently than they have for a long time. And so it's more important than ever for sysadmins to be able to quantify their work, to show value in their work, to communicate that value to business stakeholders and IT leaders and company leaders, right? And so in today's episode, Eric and I sit down and we talk about all the different ways that sysadmins can showcase value. What metrics do you need to track? Who do you need to talk to? So that and lots more in today's episode of SysAdmin Weekly. Hello, it's a new week. That means it's time for SysAdmin Weekly. This is your weekly tech show dedicated to sysadmins, created by sysadmins, and, well, dedicated to those folks that are in the trenches day in and day out, sweating, toiling, and keeping our digital world spinning, thanklessly in many cases, right? Because we all know the sysadmin job is unfortunately thankless in many cases. Eric, we're 10 seconds in, 30 seconds in, and I already have another idea for a new episode. We do this every episode, it seems like. There's a new idea for new episodes. Anyway. Right.
Take your time.
Something about the role of a sysadmin being thankless. There's something there. I'm not sure what we're doing yet, but anyway. I'm getting ahead of myself. How's it going, Eric?
All right, how you doing?
Doing good. Can't complain. Say, we've got... Speaking of thanklessness, it's funny. It's kind of an interesting juxtaposition with today's topic. And I want to point out, I think that's the first time I've ever used the word juxtaposition in a podcast. So there's a first. But anyway, today's topic is why it's important for sysadmins to be able to show value to leadership. Right. And so I just got done talking about how sysadmin, the job is thankless, but yet we have to show value. It's important that we show value, right? Especially in the unfortunate reality that we're in with layoffs all over the industry. And it's more important than ever that sysadmins are able to showcase their value and the value that they bring to the organization. So that's what we're going to be talking about as our core topic today. Before I get to that, a couple of housekeeping items. Be sure to check out our companion newsletter. So we have a weekly newsletter that is associated with this podcast. You can find it at newsletter.sysadminweekly.com. And, we've got the latest links to the current episodes of the show, past episodes of the show. We also curate a bunch of really cool, useful community links and tools and, security guidelines and security headlines, all kinds of different curated stuff that you can use in the sysadmin trenches. So be sure to check that out, newsletter.sysadminweekly.com. And if you are watching this on the YouTubes, you're seeing our smiling faces, but we are available on a number of different audio platforms as well. You can find all the different platforms that we are on at sysadminweekly.com. Now, we have our two recurring segments that we do at the beginning of every show. The first one is our News React segment, and I feel like I'm always selfish, and I always go first, ahead of the co-host that I'm with. Eric, I'm going to let you go first on this one today.
Well,
so what do you got?
Well, this time I don't have a single one. I just want to say how many headlines and stories I'm reading about AI doing things terribly wrong.
You're not
This
wrong.
thing that was coming out to destroy and get all of our jobs and everything, and it's really like, we all have a good belly laugh at the pictures of people with, way too many fingers. And if you ever want to have some fun, somebody compiled a YouTube video of people or AI drawing people eating pizza, and
I've seen that.
it's funny. It's yeah,
Yep.
and it's interesting that AI is about to come take your job. Like if no, I kind of don't think it is.
Yep. And it's interesting. It's a great tool, but every time I use it, I always look at every response with a dose of skepticism. So
Mhm.
for my day job, I was doing some competitive analysis, and I basically told GPT, okay, I want you to go out, find all the new features, new use cases, et cetera, for this particular vendor over the last 6 months. And so it comes back and says, hey, they do this. It gives me a list, but one of the line items I know is factually incorrect. Like, I know it is incorrect. They do not do this thing that it said. And so I had to I had corrected it 3 times before it finally gave up on, like, oh, I'm sorry, you're right. They don't do this thing. I'm just like, okay, so it's a great tool, but you have to look at it with a healthy dose of skepticism, right? And so, um, yeah, I think that ties back to the episode you and I did about GitHub Copilot too, as well. And I mean, it's really helpful from the standpoint of it helps you start building your documentation, which ties into my nerd hour item here in just a second. But it also does a good job of getting your code, your script, whatever you're building, about 80% of the way, right? And
Mhm.
there's always going to be something that, okay, maybe this line should be a little bit different, and maybe we should
Mhm.
change the structure here just a little bit more. It's not designed to do things
There's
100%.
a lot of things, like with PowerShell, I feel like it's linguistically correct almost all the time, but it just invents parameters wholesale. I mean, just like, "That should work," and then you look at it and go, "No, that parameter, like, these last 4 parameters here do not exist. Where did you get that?" So
Oh, it's good
mm,
times. So, well, we'll hop over to my news react item for the week, and that is I need to have one that's not cybersecurity related, but of course, that's the lens I look at the world through. So there is a case where Iranian nation-state threat actors have breached the water systems of a municipality here in the U.S. And uh, you know, no surprise. I mean, small municipalities don't have a huge IT security budget, right? But what stuck out to me was the control systems, the PLCs, the programmable logic controllers for these water systems were internet connected and were configured with the default vendor password of 1111. And so uh, that takes me back to my MSP days in the trenches. I don't know if it was just me, if just luck of the draw. I supported more manufacturing customers than any other type of vertical, right? And the one thing that I found almost universal amongst every manufacturer is that when a manufacturing line gets installed at a site, it is okay. Hey, we've paid money for this line. We got to get it operational. Let's go, 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 go. Oh yeah, let's get the PLCs installed. Again, the programmable logic controller. Those are just little, uh, Internet of Things devices, right? Let's get them installed. We'll secure them later, and nobody goes back to change the defaults on them ever. And so,
mhm.
very common issue. And I'm like, yep, makes sense. I almost could have predicted it when I saw the headline. But anyway, if you're in a manufacturing organization and you have not looked at the security of your PLC devices on your manufacturing floor, stop what you're doing. Yes, I'm telling you to stop listening to the podcast right now and go look at them. Because it is often a very effective vector of attack for threat actors. Anyway, I'll link to that in the show notes. That way you can take a look at it if you want, folks. So anyway, our other recurring segment of the show is our nerd hour segment, which of course doesn't take an hour. That's the joke. It's kind of an inside joke. If you want the explanation of where the name nerd hour comes from, go back and look at our episode about how AI is changing DevOps with Luke Oriana. That story comes from a conversation Luke and I had many, many years ago. Anyway, this is where we talk about the nerdy, geeky things that we've been doing in our off hours. And Eric, I don't think you have one this week, correct? You've been
About
remodeling
recently,
houses.
I've been remodeling houses and then spending my other time in, an inexplicable cage match with a vendor who just doesn't wanna cooperate, so
That's always a good time.
oh, yeah, I love it.
So my nerd hour thing is, of course, well, it's a story that every sysadmin finds them. Well, every sysadmin with kids finds themselves in. So my kid comes to me and says, "Hey, we want to play Minecraft again, but we want to use this mod pack, right?" So it's like this gigabyte size mod pack that. So you have your core Minecraft server, and then the Forge service gets installed on top of that, and then this mod pack gets installed on top of that. So I go to look at this mod, and there is zero documentation on how it gets installed, where it gets installed, where it gets extracted to, what you have to do on the client side. There's nothing for documentation. And I mean, I didn't really expect there to be a whole lot, but at least, like, okay, to install the mod, extract to this directory on your server, right? 4 hours later,
Oh, no.
we get everything configured. He logs into the world, and the world is just a void. There's nothing there. It's just an empty void, and there's no Minecraft world. So, anyway, back to the drawing board on that one. So yeah, that's been my fun nerd hour stuff. So the joys of Minecraft family server hosting. So anyway. I'm sure some of you can relate. If you'd like to share your Minecraft hosting horror story, again, you could reach us at contact@sysadminweekly.com. I would love to find out that I'm not alone in that. Anyway, well, what do you think, Eric? Should we hop over to our core topic for today?
Alright, let's do it.
All right. So, again, folks, we are talking about this concept of why it's important for sysadmins to be able to showcase their value to leadership. And Eric, I felt like it would be important for us to start with, I guess, for lack of a better term, what I'm calling the visibility paradox, right? And I've seen cartoons about this. I've seen comic strips, where somebody walks up to somebody in IT and says, Everything's working. What do you guys even do here?" you
Right,
know? Or it's the opposite. Everything's broken. What do you guys even do here?
right.
There's no in between. And I think that brings me to this visibility paradox of, if things are running smoothly, no one notices you. And in my opinion, that's probably how IT should be. Is like, nobody should notice you if everything's running smoothly. That said, there is this inherent thing about, if there's no outages, you don't typically get credit for it. I mean, how many times have you had leadership come into your office, Eric, and be like, "Hey, there's been no outages for 6 months. Good job, buddy. Here's
Me,
a bonus,"
personally, I've had it happen several times because I work for people who get it.
Well, that makes a
But
big difference.
yeah, and part of I think what I wanna do here today is try to help all of y'all get that too, because I know, I mean, there were years out there where, yeah, doing it right is worth 0 points, doing it
Yep.
wrong is worth negative 1,000,000 points. Yeah.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I'm not a great guinea pig for that one because I actually do frequently, "Yeah, we just don't ever have to worry about your stuff, that's great." Yeah.
Man, it must be nice, because I don't
Yes.
know if I've ever been on that side of the
It
coin.
is nice, it's amazing, I recommend everyone try to find that, it's great. It's
And so I always look at that from the standpoint of a service provider. And I mean, I, we'd provide services for all kinds of different businesses, right? And very rarely would we hear, "Thank you for there not being any downtime." Like, I really appreciate that. Good job, guys. We
Mm.
really feel like we're getting value out of you guys. It's just not something you hear very often.
No, but I had that too back when it wasn't MSP yet, it was too early for that sort of thing, but there was a whole lot of similar concepts, and yeah, I did have a few
Right.
customers like, "You know what, it's really cool that you guys just show up and do your monthly stuff, and other than that, we don't have to call you." Like, we love that, so
That's nice. And hopefully
it's
we can,
rare, but yeah.
yeah, it's hopefully we can help the other sysadmins out here get to that point, right? And so I I don't know, before I move on to the data points, Eric, is there anything about, the visibility paradox you want to cover before I move on?
I wanna say that, part of my transition, my personal transition from the thankless days to the people no yeah, there was a phrase that went around and may still be going around somewhere that said that IT is like sewage. If they're aware of you, there's a problem. I no longer believe that. I think they should be aware of you, and I think you should take the steps to make them aware of you in
Yeah.
a positive way. And I want to one other phrase that was thrown around. This is more in the '90s. I haven't heard it since, but like they said, you could be incompetent or rude as an IT guy, but not both. I think that's also no longer true. You can't be either. I mean, you can. Clearly, we have all encountered people who are one or both, but those are the guys who are, oh, I do wanna bring in a great sorry, a backstory on this. The novel series Wool by Hugh Howey.
Hmm.
If you
Okay.
have not read that, it's decent sci-fi. I enjoyed it, but also, like, man, this dude really dogs on IT all the way through, and I'm like, I bet Hugh Howey never did IT. He was on the, recipient side of dealing with IT, and, like, I finished that, and I'm like, "That book is what the regular world thinks IT is. That's how they look at us." I'm like, there's your challenge. Make that go away, and all of a sudden, you're gonna start getting the accolades. Don't because I mean, I don't wanna ruin anything, it's not much, but they hate IT all the way through the book, like, IT are the villains, basically.
Right.
So, alright, continuing.
No, that's a good point. It reminds me of that SNL skit. I don't remember early 2000s, mid 2000s. And I want to say the IT guy was played by Andy Samberg, if I remember correctly. And so it was typical office setting, right? And a user would be having an issue, and Andy Samberg would, like I said, I think it's Andy Samberg, would be like, hey, okay, try this. And like he gets really fed up after like, two sentences and just like, move. And the
Yeah.
guy moves out of the way and he does his thing, and like, I, I, I think that's the perfect depiction of like, I think that's how corporate America sees IT sometimes because there have been those IT folks in the trenches that have not done us any favors with that um not so friendly mindset. You know what I mean? So, anyway. So, we've got this visibility paradox, right? When there's no outages, we don't tend to get credit. But when it comes to business, data talks, right? So, I think even if you're not tracking certain metrics in your IT department today, you should start because it gives you some ammunition that you can use to either go to your IT director. Hopefully, they are already looking at these metrics. If they're not, I would request you ask that they do. Or if you are the IT director or the sole sysadmin, which is the case for many,
Mhm.
these can give you some ammunition to go to the C-suite when it's time to talk about budgets, compensation, your overall value, right?
Right.
Maybe you're in the unfortunate situation of having to debate whether your department is needed or not. This can give you some ammunition for that conversation as well too. And so, like, I can't think of a single situation where it would be detrimental to have this data, right? And so when I'm saying data, I'm thinking like, okay, times where downtime was avoided because of A, B, C, X, Y, or Z, or number of tickets resolved. We resolved, I don't know, 40 tickets this month, and pair that maybe with the cost of the average. The average hourly rate for the company employee, and then you could translate that into hours of time saved, right? Potentially. Uh, just trying to think of other things here. Cost savings from automation. And don't be one of those admins that is afraid of automating themselves out of a job. That's
Not
not
going to happen.
a thing anymore. Not that it ever was. My thing with the whole automate, those admins that are afraid of being automated out of a job, you automate the boring things. That way you can focus more on strategic things, more difficult items. And so anytime that you've got savings from automation, you need to highlight those. big time. Hey, I automated this process that was taking us an hour a week. Okay, 52 hours saved per year. What was the salary of the person that was doing that manual task? Okay, dollar amount saved per year by the IT department, right? So, yeah, I mean, quantifiable wins is stuff that you definitely want to be tracking. Did I miss anything there, Eric? Those
I
are the
would
ones I can think of off the top of my head.
So from a business perspective, what you're gonna wanna do is not just say, "We saved an hour." What you're gonna wanna say is, "We got an hour back to put on these other projects," because IT always has
Yeah.
more in waiting than anything else, and it does have to wait for the fires to be put out. So every hour you're not putting a fire out is an hour you're working toward the corporate mission.
Yep.
And you've always gotta phrase it more in that respect. It's not that we got an hour back, because then you're like, "Okay, so then I paid you for 39 hours of work," or, "Sorry, I paid you for 40 hours of work and you did 39." That's what they're gonna hear. So be really cautious you don't put it that way.
That's very true. Because, okay, now, hey, we can get to that project that we have planned this much quicker,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we were
Or,
able to do, oh, I don't know. I always have colloquialisms like hair on fire situations, things like that. We took our hair on fire time and put it into project time instead, and whatever works in your organization. But basically, we turned the response time into proactive time.
yep. Yeah, and I think that's a general theme that keeps coming up in my outline here as I started putting it together as well too, is like, okay, let's be less reactive and be more proactive. But when we're proactive, let's show that we're proactive, right? Let's keep track
100%.
of how we're proactive.
100%.
So,
And
the other thing that I really wanted to jump into really quick, but I think you had one more thing, Eric.
let's go on without it. It'll come up later, I'm sure.
Okay, gotcha. I
Thanks.
want to talk about dashboards as part of this, this data conversation because I've walked into a lot of network operation centers over the years, and there's these beautiful, amazing dashboards with really useful metrics on them on the wall. And come to find out, only the help desk uses those.
Right.
Those dashboards can be used by leadership as well too.
Yeah.
Modify those dashboards to highlight the value that your team is doing and make sure that your leadership team has access to that.
Yes.
And if you can get in the room for like that monthly leadership meeting, it's hard in some organizations, but that could be a nice recurring segment for you and your department in that meeting, right? Is like, hey, let's look at the metrics this month. Here's
This
the
is the one
dashboard,
thing I really wanna press upon people: get yourself a seat at the table. Get yourself a seat at the table. If you don't, you're gonna all the things that we were just talking about, all those bad things may have something to do with that, is you don't have a seat at the table, your department doesn't have a seat at the table. You may be working in one of those organizations where IT is still a division of accounting, and so the CFO is reporting on, that. That practice needs to end if it hasn't already.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. It's not that I don't like bean counters, right?
No, nothing wrong with them, it's just that
It
IT has so far outgrown the accounting department that
oh,
it
for
no
sure.
longer belongs there is what's happened.
For sure. And I always look at that from the standpoint too of if it's under accounting, there's always going to be this extra scrutiny on every single purchase because of that. Just because, in my experience, I found that, surprise, the accounting department is the most likely department to scrutinize purchases,
Right.
and
And then when they have
having,
no idea what's going on and they don't have anybody to translate it because the CFO is the person who does the reporting for
yep,
the IT.
exactly. And I mean, the CFO, unless they're highly technical, which,
It's or not it's not as common as it used to be, I'll put it that
right,
way.
exactly. They may not be in a position where they can argue the value of that $100,000 purchase, right?
Right.
And so, Uh, anyway, I guess that brings me kind of a nice segue actually into my next segment here, which I aptly titled Translating Geek into Exec Speak. And I think we've said this before on the show, Eric, that the long-standing stereotype of IT people being, these people that like to sit in the dark in the basement of a building, do their job and not talk to anyone, that is not a thing anymore. Not that I'm sure it ever was, but it definitely is not a thing now because You have to be able to not only do your job, you have to be able to do it well, and you have to be able to explain what you're doing to a variety of audiences, right? And so this is something that probably one of the skills that I have found most useful in my career over the years is, I don't know, I was probably 5, 7 years into my career, and I got to a point where I would step into a meeting about a project I was working on or something, and one of the first things I would ask before going into that meeting, who is in the room? Who am I talking
Yeah.
to?
Smart.
Is it management? Okay, is it an IT team with a customer of ours? Who's in the room? Now I know how I need to tailor the conversation in order to be as effective as possible. So if it's primarily business leadership in the room, I'm not going to be talking about, you know, how the RAID array is degraded and we need to configure RAID 6. And I'm not going to get in the weeds, right? I don't know why I'm thinking RAID, but I was just trying to think of some technical topic that, the CEO of an organization is not going to care about, right? They
Yeah,
just want to make it work, right? They don't care about the specifics.
they don't.
And so you need to be able to take that geek knowledge, that IT nerd knowledge, right? And communicate it in a way that's effective. What I found really hard, and some people have a hard time with this because we're so ingrained in the technology, we're so ingrained in the tech speak that some people have a hard time with this. But what I've found is if you're in a room talking with non-technical people and you have to convey value or you have to convey the idea, focus on the business end result, not the
Correct.
how, but the
And
business end result.
And before anybody gets, I don't know, I'm a tech guy. Okay, look, listen to me. You go to the doctor, your doctors, your nurses, they're all also having to become experts on insurance if you're in the United States. I guess across
Yeah.
overseas, not a big deal. They have to become experts on that, what things cost in their industry, general trends. They have to be experts on things that they didn't go to school for. Um, had a guy come out to repair my air conditioner. All I want him to know how to do is repair that air conditioner, but he also has to understand his part system, pricing, hourly, like he's a money person now too on top. So all of us have things that we didn't train for, that we don't really enjoy doing, that we're going to have to do. And the one thing that people in IT are going to have to do is figure out how to talk to other human beings in their language. So I will say from my perspective, where I really made that shift from nobody knows who I am and I'm unrecognized and I'm unsung and all this to that is the first thing is one of my mentors was highly technical and an MBA, so he was both, right?
Right.
And he had gone more the route of the business side is what is just how his life had worked out, and he had a strong interest in tech, and I had a strong interest in tech, and it's kind of wishy-washy on the business stuff because, like, well, if I just do my job, everything's going to be fine, right? And no, that's not actually true. And I then went further on my own and got my own MBA, and I can tell you if you really want to kill it in this industry, the more business understanding you have, the better. Your job when you go into that conference room with that CEO, CFO, whatever, is to say, this is the way that the IT department is meeting the corporate mission, which is basically to make money,
Right.
right? That's long and short of it. Whatever you're doing, that's the goal. We are helping the corporation to make money. And it especially helps you from a job perspective because a lot of places view IT purely as a cost center. And if you're not familiar with that term, it basically means we pour money in it to keep the lights going. It's a light bill, basically. It's another
Yeah.
thing. So the more money they pour on it, the first thing they're going to do is like, well, can we go from incandescent bulbs to LED bulbs to save money on that? Right? So they're going to look at IT that way. So you got to break that mental thing that IT is a cost center into, well, may or may not be a revenue generation center, but by pushing IT, your initiatives and getting all of it through, you can add revenue. Basically, that is what they want to hear from you. How are
Yeah.
you contributing to the corporate mission? Basically, how are you making money?
For sure. A couple of things that come to mind when you say that. The first one I want to mention is directly related to what you just mentioned. How can you turn IT into a profit center, right? So going back to my manufacturing days, there was a manufacturer I was doing work for that I don't remember exactly what this manufacturing line was making, some automotive ish type part. So they had a need for very, very fast data lookups for this particular line. It's doing image recognition, or so I don't remember exactly what the need was, but it was a case where the engineer that was building the line was okay, I'm at my wit's end. This is as fast as I can make it go. This is the max number of parts that this line is going to be able to make per day, et cetera, et cetera. IT got involved and we started talking about the business problem. Okay, well, why don't we just embed a SQL server right there on the line, right? We put it right on the line, put a server right there on the line, redundant pair of servers. And we, I think, doubled the amount of parts that this line was going to put out per day just because those SQL lookups were like bang, 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 right there on the spot, millisecond type lookups. And that's a case where, okay, these are the amounts of parts that you, the business, can sell per day. Okay, we've just doubled that. Now you're making twice the amount of money off of this manufacturing line that you're building, right? And so,
And in order to do that, you can't just sit there and wait for your phone to ring.
correct.
And that's really
Yep.
the push of it. You can't just wait for your phone to ring. You have to be proactive.
Yep. And I'm trying to think of how we ended up at the table of that conversation. If I remember correctly, we made it a point, myself and the other techs that used to support that particular business. We usually used to make it a point where we would poke our heads in the line engineer's office occasionally. There's, I don't know, 4 or 5 people that it was their job to build and support the manufacturing lines on the shop floor. We'd just poke our heads in there and be like, "Hey, what's going on, guys? What you been working on? Any troubles?" Just having a water cooler conversation, basically.
Yeah. If you can't get
Oh
to see
yeah,
people when you're doing the formal stuff, that and I was gonna talk about that. That's one of the things to do is meet these people. That you because first of all, you get the thing that you're talking about, but I'm gonna tell you most places you're not gonna have that nice, awesome wind just laying there waiting for you to notice it. What
right,
you will get out of those conversations, though, is you'll find people. Oh man, I have so many of these stories where like, there's a problem, and the department has just, like we call IT, and we get that one guy who just, and they don't wanna do it anymore, so they just find ways to work around it, and then you
yeah,
walk in and go, "Hey, what's up?" And they're like, "Well, since you're standing here,"
yep, yep,
and all of a sudden you're a hero, and they're talking about you, "Wow, that thing, we've had to work around that forever, and now we don't have to because somebody took care of it," and it also kinda like if you're a manager and you're not sure if your guys are yeah, I mean, I'm always about trying to help IT guys save their jobs, and I'm gonna tell you, if you wanna save your job, your first responsibility is to be competent and at least professional behaving, and if you're not doing
yep.
that, I'm not gonna feel too terribly if they let you go. So, from the IT manager perspective, yeah, if you're not sure if your folks are doing your thing, one great way to find out is just to go out and meet people in your organization.
Yep, very true. And that reminds me of another manufacturing story that I was just reminded of that exactly what you said is just like that water cooler conversation. Hey, while you're here, so a different manufacturer I was supporting at the time, they had these CNC machines. I don't know what CNC stands for. It's a big giant laser cutter, right? In this case, it was used for cutting huge pieces of steel, basically. And this thing was the size of a building. It was massive. I shouldn't say it. There were 3 of them in that building, but massive, massive CNC machines. So, if you've ever worked with these manufacturing control systems, when I'm Eric, I'm sure it's probably similar to this in the healthcare space as well too. These very proprietary machines, you're talking half a mil to upgrade them, right? I mean, big, big money to upgrade them to the latest version. And this company just wasn't at a place where they could uh, probably do that at that particular point in time. And these CNC machines were being driven by DOS machines,
Mhm.
basically. They were that old. And I mean, there's industrial oil like all over these machines and their control pens. I mean, just a
I grew
gross
up in a steel
environment.
factory, so yes, I'm familiar with all of this stuff, and yeah, they're everything you say and more, and some of the at the time, the brand new ones, so the control machines, the control units, you're saying DOS, I would say that I bet a lot of new machines are rolling out with stuff that you'd look at that and go, "This is new?"
Right.
Sorry, I interrupted you, continue.
Yeah, no, 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 no worries. And so the other thing that So this all came up as part of one of our conversations, just like, hey, while you're here, we've got these machines over here. We're kind of worried about their age, et cetera, right? And basically, we're just like, well, hey, yeah, let's look at this. And it turned into a situation where we ended up virtualizing the DOS machines
Nice.
for them on top of I think we used client Hyper-V if I remember correctly. So
Very
we
nice.
just and we centralized them as well too. So instead of the units actually being with the CNC machine, it ended up living in an office above the CNC machines, like 3 of them all together. We had cables run and it worked out very, very well. So
Oh, you got
um,
some devices off the factory floor?
we did. Yep.
So you also get to say you extended the life of those things, because I mean, did you walk like the amount of dirt and things that get
Oh, it's incredible.
oh, they're so disgusting.
Dude,
PCs on the factory floor, oh,
something about factory floors, man. Like I,
so
I
much
was
dirt,
I
so
was
much.
supporting uh, a sawmill one time, and they had a switch in. There's these catwalks up above the cutting area. And there was this little switch cabinet up there. I, you open up the switch cabinet, and sawdust would just come pouring out. I mean, like those are the environments that, in the manufacturing space, those are the environments that your
Yeah.
equipment's running in, right?
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
good times. So anyway, a couple of real world examples there about how folks can try to convey value, right? So it's going to be different for your specific organization, but I'm glad we came up with a couple of examples there. So anyway, we kind of mentioned this already, Eric, this whole idea of being proactive versus reactive, right? And we kind of already mentioned this, right? Bringing ideas to the table. So popping your head in the office, getting to know these people, that's part of being proactive, but it's also about identifying those manual tasks within your own department and automating them. That's part of being proactive as well too. And don't just automate those and, pretend like they don't exist anymore. Document that. How much time did you save? Keep
Yeah.
track of that stuff because when
And
it
you need
comes
to keep all the automation steps documented too. That I cannot
yes.
overstress that enough.
Yes, absolutely. You don't be that guy that automates this wildly complex process and then, gets a new job and rides off into the sunset. And it becomes this thing that everybody says, don't breathe on it because we don't know how to fix it. You don't want it to be that.
Right. You have a reasonable expectation that the person who replaces you should be familiar with common industry automation steps. They should know PowerShell. They should know, if you're a more Unix, Linux type shop, they should know Bash scripting and that sort of thing. So you do have some reasonable expectations of who your replacement's going to look like. But do your due diligence on documentation, keeping it. One thing I would say is, like, you can, if your organization's willing to pay for it, get yourself a professional GitHub subscription for
Yeah.
your organization and keep your internal stuff on GitHub, GitLab. You can have on-premises hosting for those types of things. You can have you can host your private instance on the cloud. There's a million ways to do this. Keep your automation stuff organized, documented, and all that, because
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. So, oh, good times. So, Eric, I think if we start to wrap all of this up, right? I mean, I've talked multiple times about being proactive, showcasing your wins, automating things, and showcasing that value. We've talked about getting to know the key stakeholders within your organization. That way, you can be a hero when they need you to be one. We've given a couple of examples of how you can showcase value within a given organization. What this all amounts to, in kind of my eye, is it really creates, how do I want to say it? I guess career armor, ultimately budget justification, right? It's a justification for your department existing. Because again, if you go all the way back to when we started this segment, we talked about how there's so many people that say, IT, what do you guys even do? Well, part of the job is showcasing what we do and the value that we bring to the organization, right? And when times get lean, which unfortunately as of this recording, we're in a world where organizations seem to be slimming up. You have to be able to showcase that value to give yourself and those under you that extra edge that's needed to hopefully stay employed, right?
Mhm.
Or when times are good, hopefully get promoted, right? Because when it comes times to get promoted, being able to showcase that value is super, super helpful as well. And I think the other thing that having this skill really helps is those situations where, I don't know, I have to replace 5 servers in my rack and it's going to be $150,000. It's a lot easier to go and make that ask when your organization has a proven track record of providing value than be seen as just an the department that's asking for money yet again, right? And so being able to showcase your wins helps have that conversation too. And again, we've seen this continue. I don't want to say continuing trend. It's always been like this, but I think it's more important than ever. Uh, IT is as much about politics, internal politics, as it is about actually doing the tech stuff as well. So,
Mhm.
I don't know. Anything you'd like to add, Eric?
Well, I want to talk to people personally, you, not you as a member of your organization, you as you. Two things I really, really cannot stress enough. The first one, I'm going to say, given the current climate of the way, you're looking at layoffs and everything, there are people at the top of these organizations who, in my opinion, have never done anything that I would recognize as a real job. And I know that's a thing that gets thrown around a lot, but they've certainly never done your job.
Correct.
And I will say that I have worked briefly for one top executive who acted like a lot of this stuff. And what it is they honestly believe if you quit, get fired, laid off, they can run down to the IT guy store, buy another one, look just like you, plug him right in, and he will do exactly what you did. They look at all of us as interchangeable. The way a plumber looks at run a PVC pipe. Well, if this one's bad, I'll go get another one, no problem. And they look at us like that.
Yeah.
And so it is on you to make sure that people understand, like for me, there are other people in the world who can do my job. I am replaceable. No one can go in tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and do my job right out of the box
Nope.
except me,
Nope.
right? So there's that balance of going, yeah, sure, you could replace me, but it's not going to be easy. It's going to cost you money to replace me. And so
Yep.
there's that angle. There is also the angle that you can't your job is not your life, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm glad you brought up the internal politics thing because some of you are sitting there going, but if I start showing off what I'm doing, my boss is going to steal the credit for that
I've had that
or sweep
happen.
it under the rug entirely and pretend it never happened because, yes, I know that's happening to a lot of you. We've all got that. And Andy, please,
Yep.
by all means, go ahead.
I was gonna say I've had that happen before. Not all managers are like that. This was a long
They're not.
time ago.
No, they're
Very
not.
previous.
Yeah, and a lot of you are working for that manager right now going, "I can't do what you guys are saying because of that," because it's just gonna your job is not your life, and it's not your probably not your last job unless you're looking at retirement. If that's your manager, you still do the things that we're talking about because the people you might be selling that to might be the ones who are reading your next resume. Because let me go back to a previous part of the segment and say, remember when I was talking about how you got to make the business case for everything? Your resume is making the business case for why someone should hire you.
Yep.
So if you walk in there and go, I did this thing that saved this organization $100 million, that is goes on your resume. Not I know how to work with SQL. That so what? Everybody knows how to work with SQL. That's not a
Yep.
selling point. I use SQL to save this manufacturing line, 80%, and then the revenue went up. That goes on your resume. And if your manager owned it, fine. So what? Let him have it because he's going to have to stay in that job while you go on somewhere else and you sell that to somebody.
Yep.
Now you're gonna need to bring receipts. You're gonna need to say, maybe you got to say, well, whatever you did, you don't. And I'm real big on like I know a lot of developers would get conned into writing code
Oh yeah.
yeah through well show us your code and then they just basically take the code and don't hire the person. Do protect yourself on that. But there are ways to go in and go. I did this thing.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
those are the two big things is they don't know who you are. You look just like the guy next to you or the girl next to you or whatever. They don't see you. They see all of you interchangeably, all of us. And you have to remember that if this job is not working out for you, you're basically building your resume for the next place by making your current place a better place. Because the other thing's going to happen if you really want to get revenge. I know a lot of us do, and it's hard to kind of balance that. I'm being mistreated, and I want to do something about that. Well, let me tell you something. You go in and you do all this stuff. Your boss takes all the credit. You take all that to your next employer, and then guess what? Your current employer doesn't have anymore. They have a manager sitting there and going, "Oh, look all the cool stuff I did," who suddenly can't produce results like that anymore on
Yep.
the day you left, and they're gonna know. And you may not be around to see that, but the first thing is there's never gonna be somebody chasing you down because, like, you're not gonna go to prison because you threw away the passwords. You're not gonna have anybody sue you because you deleted all their data. You got your revenge. Maybe you didn't get to enjoy it, but you're the good guy.
Yep.
I did everything. I wasn't treated well. I found another job. Who can actually criticize you for that? That you
Yeah.
did nothing wrong,
Nobody.
literally. So you
Yeah.
gotta be professional, and you gotta remember nobody knows who you are unless you make them know who you are,
Yep.
and you may be selling yourself to the next employer.
Yep. I think that's so important because, like you said, you put SQL on your resume. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a million people that know SQL out there. It's how you utilized that knowledge for business gain that is the important part. Because now, if I'm the hiring manager and I mostly deal in dollars and cents, right, as part of my position, okay, you saved an organization $500,000 over a year. Your salary is going to be this. Okay, I can very easily justify the ROI right there, almost instantly, right? And yeah, good point. So, well, Eric, I think this is a good one. Good conversation. Very important soft skill, I would say, for sysadmins. What do you think? Should we wrap it up?
Alright, yeah, before they get bored of us, let's let them go.
Before they give, hopefully they're not bored of us yet. Hopefully you're all still with us, folks. I choose to believe that you are.
Yep.
Anyway, appreciate you spending some time with us, folks. Again, just want to mention one more time that you check out our companion newsletter. Again, newsletter.sysadminweekly.com. All kinds of great content and useful bits in there, so be sure to check that out. And again, you can find all the different places where the show is available out at www.sysadminweekly.com. I'm looking at bringing the podcast to Substack podcast as well. So it'll be on that hopefully soon, in addition to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, hopefully Substack here coming in soon. So other than that, we'll let you go. If you have any questions, feedback, funny jokes that you want right on the show, PG-13 appropriate, be sure to reach out to us at contact@sysadminweekly.com. Other than that, we'll catch you again next week for another episode of SysAdmin Weekly. Stay safe out there.